Comenzamos el bloque informativo en Extra News.
Está en aprietos tan grandes como la gente que insta el fuego. Esto se está investigando y el Departamento de Justicia, y estos son personajes terroristas. ¿Qué le diría usted de las familias militares de Estados Unidos que han visto a Elon Musk en el Pentágono, han escuchado hablar de recortes? Estamos haciendo nuestro país más fuerte. Cuando la gente ve estas cosas y lee estas historias sobre Elon y China, deberían darse cuenta que el New York Times es una institución negativa. La gente sabe que esto no es verdad. Nadie lo cree. La gente se ríe de esto. El Pentágono le está informando sobre cómo sería una pugna con China y cómo afectaría a sus negocios. Mire, se lo inventaron. Son gente muy deshonesta. Mire, yo ya estoy cansado de ese medio. Para mí es una organización muy deshonesta. Pero esto es una ficción total. Y yo quería asegurarme, así que llamé a la secretaria de la presidencia, a Pide, y dijo, él está ahí por Dodge, no por China. Mire, él no lo habría aceptado de cualquier manera. Esto es... Pete ha hablado del personal civil y mire, vamos a tener muchos empleos en el país, pero no queremos desperdicio. Y de lo que estamos hablando es de posiciones innecesarias. Y no solo en las Fuerzas Armadas. Vean, por ejemplo, el Departamento de Educación. Nunca había visto tantos edificios de una misma dependencia. Los edificios están vacíos, la gente no va a trabajar. ¿Saben por qué? Porque tienen otros empleos, están jugando golf o haciendo otra cosa. Tenemos gente muy buena, pero la educación tiene que volver a mano de los estados. Vamos a fortalecer al país. La gente va a tener mejores empleos, porque tenemos un flujo sin precedentes de empresas en el país. Y esto será automático. ¿Por qué? Porque no quieren pagar los aranceles. ¿Cómo pueden evitar pagar los aranceles? Tengan sus plantas en los Estados Unidos. Miren, hasta ahora hablamos de 4 billones de dólares. Miren, los mejores productores de microcircuitos del mundo están viniendo. Miren, no estamos dándoles absolutamente nada. Ellos están montando unas plantas aquí para no tener que pagar los aranceles. Recuerden, el 2 de abril será el Día de la Liberación y esto será algo recíproco. Vamos a cobrarles lo mismo que nos cobran a nosotros. Es un proceso sumamente justo. India es un ejemplo de esto. Ellos nos cobran 100 o 200%. En el caso de Europa, por ejemplo, recién anunciaron que están reduciendo los aranceles sobre los vehículos. Nosotros les cobramos 2,5%. Europa está reduciendo los aranceles en vehículos a 2,5%. Pero hay otros aranceles no monetarios, al margen del costo. Estos aranceles no monetarios, cuando establecen restricciones, no quieren los coches estadounidenses en sus mercados, pero ellos nos envían millones de vehículos, equipo agrícola. Ahora tenemos un sistema más justo. Lo que sea que nos hagan, nosotros hacemos lo mismo. Rusia continúa instando a Ucrania. ¿Está usted considerando algunas sanciones? Mire, están luchando unos con otros. Creo que vamos a tener un cese del fuego en múltiples áreas. Y hay muchas herramientas, soldados que están rodeados. Creo que muy pronto podremos tener un cese al fuego. En este momento se están negociando contratos, convenios sobre territorios. ¿Qué dice usted de quienes critican sus acciones contra las firmas legales que hablan de coerción? Estas son entidades que actuaron en forma ilegal durante años. No son unos bebés, son gente muy sofisticada. Hicieron cosas muy terribles conmigo, y la falacia sobre Rusia, lo que hicieron con la computadora de Hunter, esto no vino de Rusia, esto salió de su habitación. Fueron todas falacias desarrolladas a instancias de Hillary. No creo que de Biden, porque no tenía idea de lo que estaba pasando. He visto cosas terribles, lo que le hizo a este país, lo que le hicieron a este país, especialmente los de la izquierda extremista. Son muy inteligentes. Él no es inteligente, pero estos extremistas de izquierda, lo que le hicieron al país fue terrible. No solo con la inflación, sino también permitiendo que ni millones y millones de personas negativas ingresaran a nuestro país. Eso es algo imperdonable. Muchas gracias a todos.
Committee will come to order. Without objection, the chair is authorized to declare a recess at any time. We welcome everyone to today's hearing on legislative reforms to end lawfare. I will now recognize myself for an opening statement. Welcome. We are here today to discuss potential legislative reforms to end lawfare by state and local prosecutors. Rather than debate political opponents on substance, my colleagues on the other side of the aisle thought they could win the 2024 election through the use of partisan lawfare tactics. Lawfare has been defined as, quote, the strategic use of legal proceedings to intimidate or hinder an opponent, end quote. Lawfare violates the fundamental mission of prosecutors. Prosecutors' job is to do justice. As a former assistant United States attorney, I made it my duty to uphold the law with fairness on those I charged, making sure their civil liberties were kept intact. Additionally, when I was a prosecutor, I methodically ensured the cases that were brought before me would not fall to political pressure or succumb to outside influence, especially to score cheap political points. Every American deserves to have a justice system that is divorced from the political whims of elected office holders, political parties, and personal vendettas. In their political pursuit of President Trump, however, we saw state and local prosecutors abuse professional norms in favor of achieving indictments against their target. Prior to the 2024 election, President Trump was criminally indicted 4 times. Let's take a quick look at the state and local lawsuits brought against President Trump. First up, Fulton County, Georgia District Attorney Fani Willis's 41-count indictment against 19 defendants, which included President Trump, his attorneys, his former White House chief of staff, and a former Justice Department official. The politicized nature of this prosecution is hard to ignore. A mere 4 days before the indictment, DA Willis launched a campaign fundraising website highlighting her investigation into President Trump. And though DA Willis's investigation was first reported in February of 2021, it was not until President Trump announced his candidacy that she brought charges. And later, DA Willis requested that the trial begin on March 4th, 2024, the day before Super Tuesday and just 8 days before the Georgia presidential primary. To charge President Trump and his co-defendants, DA Willis used a broad interpretation of Georgia's RICO law, which is intended to be used to prosecute criminal enterprises that infiltrate legitimate businesses and use interstate commerce. For background, RICO statutes are used to prosecute organized crime mob bosses, street gang leaders, and other crime syndicate heads, not typically elected office holders, on absurd charges. Prior to indicting President Trump, she coordinated with special counsel Jack Smith and the partisan January 6th committee. Her lead prosecutor, Nathan Wade, met with the Biden-Harris White House on multiple occasions. Then we have New York Attorney General Letitia James, who has made her disdain for President Trump well known. When she ran for New York Attorney General, she made many personal attacks against President Trump, calling him things like con man, carnival barker, and even an illegitimate president. As soon as she took office, AG James began investigating President Trump. In September 2022, she sued the president, alleging that he and his company had committed fraud to inflate the value of his properties. Now let's turn to Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg, who indicted President Trump with 34 counts of falsifying business records, which was tied to an unknown federal crime which aggravated the charges to felonies. The Manhattan District Attorney's Office had been investigating President Trump since 2018. But it wasn't until after President Trump announced he was running for president in late 2022 that Bragg elected to resurrect the zombie case against President Trump. And who did he bring on to help his politicized investigation? Bragg hired senior Biden-Harris Justice Department official Michael Colangelo to jumpstart his office's investigation of President Trump, reportedly due to Colangelo's, quote, history of taking on Donald J. Trump and his family business, end quote, while working for the New York Attorney General's office. One should be equally concerned if it were a Republican district attorney engaging in this conduct toward a former Democrat president, cabinet secretary, or White House official. These prosecutions are precisely what former Attorney General Robert Jackson warned us about. Attorney General Jackson warned about the most dangerous power of the prosecutor, quote, that he will pick people that he thinks he should get rather than pick cases that need to be prosecuted. It is here that law enforcement becomes personal, and the real crime becomes that of being unpopular with the predominant or governing group, being attached to the wrong political views, or being personally obnoxious to or in the way of the prosecutor himself, end quote. And that is precisely what we have here. This is why Congress must address Democrats' lawfare efforts by popularly elected state and local prosecutors against federal officials. In fact, many of my Democratic colleagues on this committee are vocal proponents of a fairer criminal justice system, calling an end to perceived needless instances of overzealous prosecution, wrongful arrest, and detention, and limiting incarceration overall. What better way to achieve these goals than engaging in this hearing to uncover possible missteps by state and local justice systems and ushering legislation to rectify these glaring blind spots? Current law does not adequately protect federal officials from rogue state and local attorneys who stack unwarranted charges against their political opponents. Under current law, the option to remove civil or criminal cases from a state court to a federal court is limited to federal agency officials and legislative and judicial officers. Our colleague on the Judiciary Committee, Congressman Frye, has a bill that would fix this problem. The Promptly Ending Political Prosecutions and Executive Retaliation Act of 2025 is designed to protect our nation's leaders from lawfare tactics. This bill gives both current and former presidents of either party, vice presidents, and federal officials the ability to remove civil and criminal cases against them from a state court to a federal district court. The bill also codifies the immunity recognized by the U.S. Supreme Court for official acts carried out by a federal official. This bill should not be misconstrued as a get-out-of-jail-free card. Far from it. It should be an opportunity for individuals to have a shot of non-politicized due process experience. Make no mistake, if a federal official were to commit theft, fraud, assault, or other crime, they should be held accountable regardless of political party or policy views. This introduced bill should be welcomed by both parties, as no individual acting within their duties should be sought after because of whom they work for or their political leanings. I'm looking forward to discussing that particular bill, as well as the need for legislative fixes in this space today. I want to thank all of our witnesses for being here today. We look forward to your testimony and the robust conversation on how we can move forward and fix this problem. I now recognize the ranking member, Ms. Scanlon, for...
Muy pronto, vuelve a escuchar las noticias más relevantes en este canal de noticias.